This video is sponsored by OBSBot. More on them later on in the video. Chances are, if you're looking into getting an Ally or Ally X, or you already have one for yourself, you want to make sure that you get the best experience possible. And even with all of that being said and done, there are always new tips and tricks and different things that you can use to elevate that experience to the next level. Now, for me, I've had both the Ally and Ally X, well, since they both came out, and I've learned a lot of things, but even still, there are some accessories that I would recommend, some applications that I would recommend. Some are free, some are paid, but in this video, if there's something that I don't talk about, let me know down in the comments below, not only for myself, but also for other people that are watching this video, because I really truly believe that as a community, we can just elevate that experience for everyone as a whole. Now, first and foremost, if you do get one of these handhelds for yourself, I do recommend getting a new SSD and honestly, just upgrading the amount of storage that you have. Now, for my ROG Ally, I have a 1TB SSD, and on the Ally X, I have a 2TB SSD. It really doesn't matter which one you go for, and both of these are actually very easy to swap out. On the Ally, all you have to do is remove the back cover that's there, and underneath a little heat shield, you'll find the 2230 SSD. All you got to do is swap it out, and boom, you're done. Put the backplate back on, and you're set to go. On the Ally X, though, it's a little tiny bit more complex. Really, no, it's not. All you got to do is remove the backplate, but you have to be careful with the ribbon wire that's there. You don't want to damage that. It's actually what connects the macro keys that are on the back plate of the Ally X to the motherboard. So as you carefully remove the back plate, right there underneath the heat shield, you will go ahead and see the 2280 SSD. Now, for me personally, I prefer the 2280 on the Ally X. I mean, I prefer the Ally X overall. It's a nice upgrade, but because it is a 2280, it's much more readily available, which means that it's cheaper by comparison to a 2230 or a 2242 if you're coming from the Legion Go. So I like to go with that. Now, another option is technically to get a micro SD card that you can use on your Ally or Ally X. We all know that with the Ally, there were definitely some micro SD card slot issues on there, and that's why ASUS extended the warranty for the Ally in the United States as well as in the European Union. Now, with the Ally X, I have not experienced any of the issues that I saw on the Ally. That being said, even if you were to load games onto a micro SD card, they typically take a little bit longer for them to load in comparison to, well, just having them stored on an SSD. That being said, once all of the assets are loaded in from the micro SD card into the game, everything should run virtually the same as it would if it was being pulled from an SSD. That means that the performance is more or less on par. The only difference are the loading times that you would get on the micro SD card. Regardless of that, there are so many different options and different combinations that you can do with a micro SD card combined with an actual SSD upgrade that it really just depends on how much you want to go for. For me personally, like I said, it's a 2TB upgrade for me. I've seen people do 4 or even more aside from that. So again, up to you in terms of what you want to go ahead and do. But for me personally, I definitely think it's worth it to just upgrade that SSD that's in there. Windows is not really designed to run on a handheld, but ASUS has done a really good job with Armoury Crate and kind of creating this streamlined process in terms of playing games once you boot up into your Ally X. Now, the first time that you set it up, you're going to have to download all of the different game platforms that are here and get them set up so that you can go ahead and play the games that you want to play on the platforms that are there. But once everything is set up and running, it's very, very seamless. Now, the cool thing that I do like about this is that they have gone above and beyond in terms of creating a customizable experience. For example, if I wanted to manage my library, I can go ahead and change the way that it is presented. Like I can customize whether it's a vertical or horizontal experience, if I want the cover art to be in the center or at the top, at the bottom, as well as the actual size of the cover art that's there. And you can change the different images that are being shown. Like there's just a lot of functionality and flexibility that's here. Now, one of the cool things that I do like about this is that you don't have to go into the AMD Radeon software in order to actually change the settings that are there. You can go ahead and tab over using the right bumper and go into performance. And then from here, you have your different operating modes. You have system stats if you want to check that out. But there's also Eco Assist as well as GPU settings. Now, with Eco Assist, there are a couple of different options that are here. If you are playing games that are, let's say, 2D titles or things that don't really require that much horsepower, I would toggle off the CPU boost because you're going to be essentially draining battery for no reason at all. Now, if you're playing a AAA title that does require, you know, a little bit extra juice from time to time, then the CPU boost is fine as of right now. But when this first launched, it was just a waste of power entirely. There are different settings that are here for extreme standby and modern standby mode. This is more tied towards putting your handheld in hibernate. I don't recommend putting a Windows handheld in sleep mode. It's not good, and sometimes leads towards a couple of crazy scenarios. Sometimes it's fine, but it's just not good from what I've seen. I would actually recommend going into hibernate. It's just much more easier in terms of getting back into your gaming instead of going into any sort of crazy glitches. Now, in GPU settings, these are universal or global settings for the games that run here. So every single game will default to this unless you specify it differently, which I'll get into in a little bit. But in terms of the memory that is assigned to the GPU, I would recommend 8, sometimes maybe 10 gigabytes, but I feel like that's enough. I don't recommend that you go to auto because sometimes the system will give too little VRAM and your game might crash. So 8 to 10, I feel like, is more than enough. All of the different settings that are here, if you want to go ahead and turn them on, you can. They all do different things, including AMD's fluid motion frames, or AFMF. They recently just released, or ASUS released, AFMF 2, and it does a pretty good job, and we'll talk about that later on in the video. But if you want to go ahead and go into deeper settings for each and every single individual game, for example, Celeste doesn't really require that much horsepower. So you want to go into the game options that are there and set a custom game profile. When you go in there, obviously, you do have your select template that happens. This pops up when you first launch a game using Armoury Crate. But if you wanted to go even deeper into the different configurations and settings that are there, you can change the operating mode when either plugged in or on battery. Now, for me personally, Celeste is a pretty easy game to run. You will be fine on silent. You don't need much more than that. Now, you can create a manual mode that will allow you to adjust the TDP to whatever it is that you want. And then from there, you also have GPU settings that are there, so you can toggle on different things that are there. Now, for me personally, I don't think that we need more than 60 FPS for Celeste, and the system will be able to hit that relatively easily. You're not going to need anything more than that. All of the other options that are here are available, but the cool thing about this is that the settings that are put in here right now, they only apply to Celeste and nothing else. So the cool thing is that you can do this for each and every single game that is there. Now, when you have Armoury Crate loaded up and everything, you also have this command center that's here. Now, this has a ton of different options that are here by default, but you can adjust the way that everything is laid out. So again, if we hit right, or that right bumper that's right there, the edit command center is right over here. Now, I have all of these different tiles that are here. By default, I believe there are 9. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. But in order to actually move them around, like let's say I wanted to actually mess more with the resolution from time to time, I just got a long press, and then I can go ahead and just move it all the way up. And let's say I wanted to put it right over here, and then it'll go ahead and take that and kind of just swap everything down. It's pretty convenient because if you are more conscious of the resolution or the hertz refresh rate or whatever it may be, you can make sure that they're more closer to the top than towards the bottom. Like if there's some instances where AFMF is giving you problems, then you can toggle it off, and that way you can just run the games that are there without that. But it's nice and convenient that all of this is here within this app itself. It's much more convenient to just have that.
Now, if by any chance you did want to go ahead and change the layout of this, all you have to do is come right over here, hit the X, and there's going to be a little add icon. You just touch that, and then from there you can pick and choose whatever it is that you want to go ahead and add in its place. It's really honestly nifty and convenient because you can fully customize whatever pops up in this command center area over here.
All of the update center stuff is here, which is nice because, again, you're not going to need an extra app in order to get things running. Initially, when the original ROG Ally first came out, you had to deal with Armoury Crate, and then from time to time, you had to go down here to the actual My ASUS app in order to make sure that there aren't any drivers or software updates that you missed out on. But as of late, everything in Armoury Crate just works. You don't really need too much else in order to actually get your updates or your drivers. So I do like the fact that it just runs and you never have to worry about anything at all. I always recommend getting some form of accessory to protect your handheld because, you know, it's a worthy investment. I'll have affiliate links to all of the things that I talk about in the description, as well as the pinned comment down below. And let me know if you have any questions about anything. I'll answer whatever I can. But when it comes down to it, I do recommend getting a case of some kind, especially for the original Ally. Like, you know, it was pretty flat, so I wanted to have something that added ergonomics. The JSO's mod case, that did a pretty good job. So did the Kill Switch case from Dbrand. Both of them are really good at just adding more oomph towards the grips that are there, and makes it much more comfortable and ergonomic while protecting your handheld whenever you're traveling out and about. Now, when it comes to actually connecting to a monitor or television, you have several options. There is, for example, the JSO dock that is here. This is specifically designed for the ASUS ROG Ally X, but it does also work with the original Ally. Now, ASUS, they do have this travel charging dock that does a pretty good job. Honestly, it's plug and play, and the cool thing that I do like about this is that the footprint is really small, and it doesn't have to be used to actually just connect to the TV. You can use it just like a regular charger, like it just connects and it just works. So if there isn't an HDMI connected to this, it just functions like a regular charger, so you're not going to have a video out. The moment that you do connect it using HDMI, that's when it'll go ahead and kick in and you'll get a video out signal. But the cool thing that I do like about it, it's officially supported and it is something that just works. Now, whenever I do travel, I do take my TomTalk case with me. They have sponsored the channel several times. They are not sponsoring this video specifically, but I've taken it with me to Taipei, Taiwan for Computex. I took it with me recently to Las Vegas for CES. I've taken it with me to St. Louis, Atlanta. Like whenever I have to travel for my day job, I take this with me and I take my ROG Ally X inside of it. It does a good job of protecting it. Now, I do also take this wireless keyboard, this Bluetooth keyboard that's here. It does a really good job in terms of just having everything set up that's here, just so I don't have to like worry about anything, and it works. So if you need to go ahead and go into a browser, or you need to, I don't know, type something out, it's there and it does the job, which means that you don't really have to worry about things. Now, the Ally X's battery is awesome. At 80 watt hours, you don't really have to worry about much, but on the original Ally, you might need a little bit more juice. Now, Ugreen, they have a ton of different options when it comes to actually powering your device using a power bank. Now, this one specifically is 20,000 milliamp hours and has a 100 watt output. Now, I always recommend going with at least 15,000 milliamp hours. The 20,000 milliamp hour is definitely overkill in my opinion, but it still does a pretty good job. Like, I don't have to worry about anything, and I think that's the main thing. It's peace of mind. Whenever I'm traveling and I'm in an airplane or something like that, and I'm traveling across the United States, or I'm traveling, you know, to Europe for whatever reason, I want to make sure that I have something that I can charge not only my handheld, but also my other devices as well. And this does a really, really good job in terms of doing that. But with all of that stuff, you want to make sure that you can actually play the games that you have while connected to a TV. And I would recommend the 8BitDo or 8BitDo Ultimate Bluetooth controller. I reviewed it almost 2 years ago, but it's still my go-to whenever I'm playing games on PC because it's just comfortable, it's well worth the price, and it is so versatile when it comes to all of the features that are packed into it that it's almost impossible not to recommend it. If you're into emulation, I do recommend downloading EmuDeck. It's kind of your one-stop shop because it essentially just pulls all of the different emulators that you need and has a pretty streamlined process in order to actually get everything set up, especially on a Windows-based handheld. Or if you had, you know, a Steam Deck or something like that, that also works as well because it was originally designed to run on the Steam Deck. But regardless of that, I do digress. It just does a really good job to play the games that you want to go ahead and play on the go, albeit you do need to go ahead and get the specific files that are needed. I do recommend a website that rhymes with Moogle. It does a really good job in terms of finding those files for you. I will have a link down in the description to Russ from Retro Game Core's video that does a really good job in terms of describing everything, well, anything and everything when it comes to actually getting everything established. I also have a link towards his written guide that he constantly updates and as things are changing with EmuDeck, because things are constantly being updated and, well, new features are being added all the time. So follow the link in the description below to go ahead and learn a little bit more about that. Okay, so with the AMD Radeon software that your handheld comes with, you have a slew of features. One of those specifically is something that's called AFMF2, or AMD's Fluid Motion Frames. Now, if you go into the Performance tab and you go into Overlay, you can enable the metrics. That way you can see more or less what's happening in real time. And if we go into Gaming, and from there, whatever game you are playing is listed. You can go down and you can see the AFMF is right over here. Now I have it disabled so that I can show you the before and after of how this runs on a game like God of War. Now God of War does have its own frame generation, but I just wanted to show you kind of more or less what it is that you can expect in terms of a difference. Now here you are, you know, walking around. This is currently at low settings, and you can see that it's kind of like spiking up and down and going to and from. Nothing absolutely crazy, you know. But if we go into if we go into the AMD's AFMF2 and enable that, we have the search mode for auto and then performance mode set to performance. Now if we go back to God of War and we go back, now you can see that we're getting a nice little chunk of frames extra. Now, of course, with any sort of frame generation, you do have a little bit of lag that is here, but for the most part, AMD's AFMF2 did a really good job in terms of not only reducing the latency of that, but also getting rid of the ghosting that we would see. It's still there from time to time, but overall, it's actually pretty awesome. And the cool thing with AFMF2 is that it is a system-wide setting that is here. So obviously you can adjust individual custom profiles for each and every single game by going back into AMD's Radeon software. So there are global settings, and then for each and every single individual game that you have, you can adjust the settings that are there. But that is one of the options that we have. The next option that we have is something that is called lossless scaling. Now, lossless scaling is a paid application on Steam. It's not free, but to be honest with you, the $6 or $7 that they charge for it is 100% worth it. I would probably go with this if you want to. And lossless scaling, if you are part of their beta program, they just finished releasing lossless scaling 3.0, and this frame generation technology just makes everything look so good. I'm going to put on screen all of the different settings that I have on here. Now, once you have everything set up, on the top right hand corner, you hit scale and it'll start scaling. And again, this is pretty much a system-wide thing. As long as you have it running, like, you can see everything that's there. Here you are in the top left-hand corner. On the left side, you have the actual real frames that you have, and then the generated frames are on the side. If you just want to, you know, cap it out at 60 FPS, you can do that. But I mean, this looks so stinking smooth, and the latency is so much better than 2.0. Now, I tried 2.0 when I did my MSI Claw review 6 months later, and I'll have a link to that somewhere up here. But, you know, I was disappointed with the latency that I saw there. The latency here is just phenomenal, and this is just 2x. Obviously you can hit 3x if you want to. If you're using this on a PC or a desktop, you can do 4, 5, 6x, maybe even 7x. Like, it's insane to me how crisp and clear it is. And like, guys, this is worth $6 or $7. 110%, especially if you're playing mainly on a handheld PC with an iGPU. So those are the differences between the two. I personally prefer lossless scaling out of the two. It's just this 3.0 update is absolutely bonkers. Now, the speakers on the Ally X for me are more than adequate, but there are some people that say that the speakers on the Ally X are quieter than the original Ally. This is where FX sound comes into play, and I first discovered this when I reviewed the GPD Win Max 2. Now, this essentially just allows you to EQ the actual speakers that are here and essentially make it louder. Now, you go into general, and there's definitely a ton of different settings. There's gaming right there, and then from there, you can go ahead and adjust different settings. You can fine tune it however you want, and this is great because it's a free app. Now, the cool thing with this is that once everything is said and done and installed, you will get richer sound from your speakers, and it's all free. Now, I personally am not an audiophile. I just like what I hear, and this definitely increased the volume of my speakers. So if you want something that just go ahead and let you tweak things and get it exactly the way that you want, download FX Sound. It's honestly awesome. Let's say that you are tired of the Windows jank and you want to experience what SteamOS would be like on your ROG Ally or Ally X. Then you might want to consider installing Bazzite OS onto your handheld. Now, I've done a full tutorial on how to do that. I'll have that linked somewhere up here. That way you can go ahead and check it out for yourself, but it's relatively easy and it can be done in a short amount of time. And the cool thing is that you can do a partition, which means that you can have one half of your hard drive being Windows focused and the other one being SteamOS or Bazzite focused. That means that you can get the best of both worlds in one handheld. So follow the link up here in the description to go ahead and find out how to do that for yourself. Now, for me personally, I do not use the ROG Ally X as my main computer, but there are some people that have been looking at this as an option to just, well, pretty much use it however you want. Connect it to a monitor and that is your computer, and you can use that for whatever, schoolwork, administrative stuff, whatever it is that you want. Get an eGPU and you can even expand the usability of it and actually be able to play games at a higher resolution and higher fidelity. One of the things that it is lacking though, that you don't have, is a webcam. And that's where today's sponsor OBSBot comes into play. Okay guys, this is the OBSBot Meet SE. And honestly, in terms of versatility with performance as well as value, you can't, like, it's bang for your buck. You can't get any better than this. It's a 1080p 100 frames per second webcam with an f-stop of 1.8. That means that you can honestly, you just use the webcam in low lighting situations like this one. The cool thing about it is that it integrates naturally into whatever it is that you're using, so you don't have to download the OBSBot Center app, but I do recommend it if you want to unlock additional features that are there. This includes not only adjusting the hue, saturation, and clarity of the image, but also different filters that are built into it. So if you want to use a skinny filter, they have that. You want to use a de-aging filter, they have that as well. There's also built-in AI features that are gesture-based, so all you got to do is just do a specific gesture and it'll go ahead and do the action on screen. That way you can do your presentation or talk online and it'll do exactly what it is that you want it to do while presenting. And with all of those filters and different settings that are there, you can get a video out and plug it right into OBS, Zoom, Google Meet, whatever it is that you want to go ahead and use. And if you want to integrate it with Stream Deck or the Open Sound Control or even a global hotkey, you can do that too. It comes in 3 different colors. You have Aurora Green, Space Gray, and also Cloud White. They sent me the Space Gray option, and honestly, I kind of like it because it just blends right into my setup. And if you have any privacy concerns, they have this little magnetic lens cap that just pops right on. Now, if you're ready to elevate your webcam game, then follow the link in the description below and get yours today. And thanks to OBSBot for sponsoring this video. So what did you guys think of all of the things that I talked about in this video? Was there something that I missed or something that you recommend that I wasn't aware of? Let me know down in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on things. And if you want to hear my thoughts on the ROG Ally X when I first got it, then click this video over here. But if you want to hear my thoughts on the ROG Ally X versus the MSI Claw 8 AI Plus, which is MSI's most recent offering, then click this video over here. And until next time, guys, I will see you on the next one. Peace.